everyone, and welcome back to the MetaManiacs Show. This is episode 9, and as you guys saw in the title, today we were talking about promotional cards. It's me, Dan Green, and I'm here, of course, with my amazing co-hosts. We have Dillan Straube.
Hey, guys.
And we have Jordan Syverson.
Welcome, everyone.
And we have the little picture in the corner of the MetaManiacs logo, if you're watching the video version. Mike is currently in the Pro Play Games Sunday event, using his $60 budget set 2. It's set 11 for Dragon Ball Super, by the way. He's using a set 2 character with a $60 budget deck, and he's trying to, as he said, he wants to make people playing expensive decks sad by beating them with a budget deck. So, and, you know, I bring this up because, one, you know, we want to cheer on Mike, and he's doing a great job and helping people see that there are cheap ways to build decks, but also because I think it's interesting. When we started talking about this before we recorded the episode, one of you guys asked, I think it might have been Dillan. No, actually, I don't remember. It was one of you two asked about the price of he said, beating $1,200 decks, and said, does that include promotional cards that are like really expensive?
Sounds like a Jordan question.
It sounds like that might have been Jordan, but I can't.
I was wondering if it
sure.
was like alt art cards, why it was so expensive, or if it was the actual like base versions of them.
And I thought that was just a cute thing to bring up. By the way, it isn't necessarily. I mean, it could be. It depends on the build, but there are some pretty expensive cards in the Dragon Ball Super card game right now, and many people think that games that like Dragon Ball Super that use promo cards that are exclusive, they have exclusive effects, and then they're not cards you can find in booster sets. Those cards will have like whopping price tags that make it really impossible to play competitively that way. And interestingly, that hasn't always really been the case with Dragon Ball Super. Very rarely has that been the case. And we'll maybe talk about a few corner cases, but I thought it would just be interesting to talk about promotional cards because there's so many different schemes for releasing them. Do you make ones with unique effects? Do you make alternate art versions of cards? How exclusive do you make them? There's only one of this card in existence, or do you make them more accessible? Do you reprint promo cards later? A lot of card games have different ways of doing it. And just before we jump in, I like to always try and define terms when possible. So if you guys are unfamiliar with what a promotional card is, we're referring to a card, also known as a promo card, that is used in the promotion of something and is not something you get by buying boosters normally. So card games typically have booster sets. You buy booster packs, you get the cards from that set. They may have promotional cards that are box toppers that are on top of the box. Those are like you kind of buy them, but they're still promoting you purchasing the box in store instead of buying singles or whatever online. They have tournament promos. They have promos that are given out with other media, like you buy a Dragon Ball Super game and you get a promo card with it. And just a wide variety of different ways that they can be distributed. So I'm going to open the floor here, like some of our old podcasts here, and just have Dillan. I want you to start by giving us some of your thoughts on what systems of promo cards do you like and dislike, what works for you, what doesn't, and when you're looking at a game, you know, what kind of pros and cons do you get from whatever promo system it uses?
Thank you. Well, that's a big question. I personally am a very utilitarian type of person when it comes to deliverance of cards, and that's in generally anything. I really dislike secondary markets that incredibly rack up the price of things out of the availability of the average person. So like scalping, I'm vehemently against ethically, and I think any promo systems that enable that are in themselves not flawed, because obviously, you know, they're doing, and unless it's a secondary function of what they want, they're forming their objective. But I don't like them from a consumer standpoint. That being said, I really do enjoy pro-consumer reprint promos. I think are great, as long as there hasn't already been like a promo of it before. I think it's kind of dumb when people like recycle promos. Like you're like, oh, okay, I've made a like Final Fantasy did this recently actually. They had a set 4 pack-in promo, which for what people don't know is a like when you go to a special event, sometimes you'll get a promotional card that indicates that you were at that event, right? So like set 4 had a pack-in promo in Yuri, and Yuri was a great, beautiful, pretty much all white card with gold text. So it was a really clean looking version, and that was the best version of the card that you could get for a long time. You can get the non-foil, you can get the foil, or you can get the promo, which sounds great, right? It's easy, it's clear to understand. Well, I think, was it a month ago, 2 months ago? We mentioned this at least once before, but they reprinted that promo, except they removed the gold text and they just made it full art. So now there's the foil, the non-foil, the set 4 pack-in promo, and the full art promo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna make a special version of the card, I like making a special version of the card, and then, move on to another card, right? Because that card's already seen some special treatment. Not that full arts aren't great, but in most games, and Final Fantasy is one of them, full arts aren't ubiquitous enough to where you can have an entire deck of them. So I don't feel anything was lost on Yuri not being a full art, because he was gold, and that's gold text is restricted to pre-release promos. So they look really, or like Worlds level or like Nationals level promos. So like they're like really prestigious promos. And to like reprint a full art, I feel like just the community, from what I saw, and not even just mine, nobody was excited for that promo. And obviously,
so was this a card that people play? I apologize just for not knowing the
No,
very
you're
well,
fine.
Is this card people were playing and
yeah, my
using
worlds list had, or my nationals list had Yuri in it. The one that I went 7-0 with had Yuri in it, and I used Yuri as like the core component of the deck. He's a very strong card. Nope. Nope. Okay. So literally nobody on the I didn't see one person that was excited for Yuri to be a promo, and not because people were like, oh, I'm so sick of Yuri, but because they were like, we already have a great version of him, and yes, the promotional version is only available to people who are, I guess it's set 4, sorry, or set 6 rather. I said set 4 multiple times. So it's like 5 sets ago now. It'll eventually be 6. So it's the promo's a bit old, and the hero's a bit old, but he's still very, you can't really easily get set 6 boxes everywhere, which is my secondary point to this subject. But he's very ubiquitous on the TCG tradings, and it's not expensive. Final Fantasy does a very good job of giving out promos, giving out rares, giving out foils that aren't incredibly expensive, because there's a foil in every pack, and that can go in conjunction with your rare or your ultra rare. It's legendary in Final Fantasy, but ultra rare. So you're always guaranteed a foil, and those foils are often of value. So I think reprint promos are great, though. Which is weird, because I just said I'm not happy particularly with Yuri, because he is a reprint, but he's a reprint promo of a promo. It's not really that. I don't know. I think it's great that more people have Yuri in their hands.
You'd rather see a card that hasn't gotten
a
cool promotional version being picked for this.
Actually, I think this year's Road to Worlds promo was supposed to be Chelinka, who is, if people don't know the Final Fantasy, and I don't because I'm not a big Final Fantasy guy, I just know it because I played it at FFTCG. I love Final Fantasy, but I don't play it an incredible amount. Yeah, it's just the game mechanics are so good. That's it. The game mechanics are so good, and I do have I'm Final Fantasy adjacent, right? I love the Kingdom Hearts series. I've played through the majority of 10. I've beaten 7R. That's a lie. I've gotten through most of 7 Remake. I've played a good chunk of Final Fantasies. I've just never finished them. I have a lot of appreciation for them. They've never really struck me. The only reason I haven't beaten 7R is because I'm waiting for 7R Part 2 and 3, and I know as soon as I finish it, I'm on that train of waiting. So mentally, I'm I could just put it off and I don't have to finish it yet, and then I don't have to wait. So, which is totally stupid. But so Chelinka is Yuri's sister. She was a ultra rare of the same set that Yuri came out in. She's crazy. She's extremely powerful. She increases damage for all FFC characters. She's very cheap, and when she enters the field, she deals 2,000 damage to the board when she just enters, which is a very small amount. But she buffs every other incremental damage that characters that are like her can do. So she's a very strong portion of that deck that I mentioned that I brought to Nationals. So they reprinted her, but she's as a promo rather. But she's only available for the Worlds season 2020, which
is
isn't
not
happening. So people are like, is she gonna be for 2021? Like that's the thing. So that's a fun part about like promos during this the in between times. So yeah, I think promos are best when they are unique, but they aren't so unique that they destroy the integrity of the trading part of trading card games. I think I have a big issue when it's a super, super cheap or easy to get, but it's so incredibly hard to get. So it's easy to attain with little investment, but it's so unique that it becomes explosive in price. I think the only other instance of I know that's in many other TCGs. I know there's a few instances of that in the Final Fantasy TCG. Zach, the fanfare promo. This happened and it was a mistake. I think they got sent the wrong amount of promos. And the fanfare is an event that takes place in Los Angeles every year, where it's a non-competitive tournament. So it's not a part of the competitive circuit. People can play title format, like separate formats. They get to meet the producers and developers, and they get to play fun boss battle, non-competitive events, right? And they get prizes and stuff. And it's a really cool event, especially if you like Final Fantasy. It's all about that. They give keychains as prize support, and they give if you win an event, you get a Play Arts Kai $300 statue, right? It's all about like the fanfare stuff. It's really cool. But if you go there, you get a fanfare promo every year. And these fanfare promos are notorious for being a little more expensive, right? Because they are only given at the one event, and you have to go to Los Angeles to get that event, because you have to go to the Square Enix store, because that's where Square Enix is located in America. Which makes sense, right? Because it's for the fans. It's supposed to be unique, and you give them one thing that is actually strictly unique to that event. I dig that. Well, at the last event, they had it was kind of pre the in-between times. It was a little weird. And so they flubbed up on giving the right amount of promos, or they heavily flubbed up on the advertising of the event. So it was supposed to be what was advertised was every person that went there received a play set of these full art Zach fanfare promos.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was they had 64 of them total, non-play sets.
Oh.
Wow.
So top 32 each got one. Top 8, or I think top 16 got to finish out their playset. And this wasn't a decision of Square Enix. It was. I wasn't there, but I've heard answers from many avenues, and the only as clean and non-biased of an answer I got was that the tournament operators weren't informed properly. They ninja edited the Facebook post to change the payout, like the advertised payout, which was caught and screenshotted and then posted in the comments after it, being like, I can't believe you didn't talk to people about this. It was a big flub. So Zach Fanfare promos go for $300 a piece.
Now,
Moral of the story.
Are these promos like unique in effect, or are they just like alternate
Final
art
Fantasy
versions of-
refuses to make unique effects promos.
Okay.
That is something that I forgot to mention because I think it should be stated without having to be stated. Don't make a unique card that has unique effect that only so many people can get in your competitive game. That's not you're not going to give a weapon to somebody that nobody else can have. I don't think you give.
I disagree.
I don't think
disagree as well.
I think if you're going to make 5 versions of a card and you're going to put it in the same circuit as everyone else, that's unfair.
No. I think it's completely fine as long as it's not a promo that's like something that only certain like if it's a wide release promo, like for example, let's say like we'll choose box
that's
topper as
fine.
an easy one. If it's a box topper, if it's something that's easily available for people to get at a reasonable price,
but that's
fine to be a
different
unique
though.
Effect. But I'm okay with this Zach thing because if it's just a bling factor, I'm perfectly fine.
That is which is why I'm fine with it being expensive. I'm not losing my mind over it. But it was actually like a huge flub. So there should be 3 times the amount of these in the wild.
Right.
But actually way more than 3. But
Dylan, you brought up one of the main things I wanted to talk about today, which is that it's thanks, Dylan. It's that people can really get, understandably, in a bit of a tizzy, we'll say, about promos being unique. So here's what it comes down to. There are ways to do it right and there are ways to do it wrong. Period. Often, I'm going to start by citing, as we often do, the Panini Dragon Ball Z card game. Okay. This is a very.
He did say Panini.
We all love that game.
Okay.
That's great, and we're good friends with Panini, and we support Panini in the things that they do, at least generally. And that said, their promo system was hit or miss. I'll put it that way. They alternate art promos, which is fine, but they're actually, I think their world system was good. Was good, other than judges should have gotten a little more support. But it's fine to have these alternate art, cool, blinged out cards that are exclusive to like this high level of 32 or 16 players or wherever you get these. That's fine because those are cool prestige pieces. Those, like with your Zach thing, if it were advertised correctly, fine. Then it would be a more competitive event. Whatever.
Well, if there were only 64, like they were supposed to give it a play set per ticket, and it was, it wasn't that. So. Yeah.
But all I'm saying is that if they're going to do a prestige promo alternate art for a competitive event where only a small number of people get it, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do, and before I get there, what Panini did also though is that they would have alternate art promos at local events, and they would rotate on a basis, and every month you had the same set of promos, and those were basically worthless. There was no value to those alternate promos because
I wouldn't say monetary value, yes, but there was a lot of times where I'm glad they were so very readily available because they had much cooler art than you'd get in the booster pack.
Cole and I had an entire playbook, trading book that was. So hold on. This is a great I'm going right off of what you just said. We had 2 binders we had one giant binder for our bulk trades. We had 2 binders for our special trades. And one of our special trades was ultra rares and super hard to come by foils. And then when people were like, "Oh, do you got anything else?" We were like, "Oh, no, we forgot. We do have another trade binder." So we pull out this small wallet-sized trade binder, and you open it up, and it was filled front to back, like both sides, for each of Goku's promo Kamehameha waves. The entire thing was, so we had like 128 Goku's Kamehameha waves in this like trade binder, and whenever we needed people to spice up the trade, we would go, "How many Goku's Kamehameha waves do you have?" So we were just intending to get as many, like we were trying to like corner the market on stupid promo Goku's Kamehameha. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. It was great to see people's faces.
That's awesome because that illustrates exactly what the issue was that they were far too prevalent to have any real value to them.
They had less value than the regular foils.
Yes. Which okay, so I'm using this to illustrate that no matter what system you go with, which is reprint promos, alternate art stuff, or unique cards, what it actually comes down to is distribution model. Period.
Yes. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And but I wanted to illustrate that because Bandai games like Dragon Ball Super and the upcoming Digimon, they go with unique effect promos. But we've seen with Dragon Ball Super, they do a very good job, I think, in my experience. In my experience as one working at the back end, to some degree, I was setting up our tournaments at our local shop for a long time, so I was signing up for events and making sure the shop...
Will you be doing that when when everything reopens properly again?
Mike is now in charge of that at our local shop.
Awesome. Cool. Good for Mike. It's a good responsibility for him to have.
Yes. Yeah, I just needed it off my plate, honestly.
Yeah, I understand.
Setting all that up and getting the promos in, and then being the person running the events and distributing the promos to people in the promo packs and everything. So I'm pretty intimately familiar with how our local group was acquiring these cards and how much trouble they were or weren't having getting them. What Bandai does is they use these promo packs as ways to basically sneak additional effects in to archetypes they're building in the set. So a promo pack will come out and you'll see the set spoiler and be like, I don't know if Pilaf is looking very good yet or whatever, or Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. I'm not sure that's a deck that is going to quite pan out. And then you'll see the promo packers be like, actually, this was the thing that was missing, and that's could be really bad.
Kind of neat.
That could go very bad.
Yeah.
If the distribution sucked, because then you have a deck that's basically unplayable unless you get this promo card. So that, to your point, Dylan, companies can do this very wrong. However, if your distribution model works well enough, and outside of this pandemic making things a little weird, then outside of that, there's some championship promos for 2020 that are a little tough to get right now, because they were supposed to be tons and tons and tons and tons of events throughout the year that were giving these out, and now they've had to go to they made some like at home play kits that people could request so that they can get copies for their local play groups to get and everything. They've been trying to come up with avenues to distribute those more, but up until now, they've actually been very good about if you're going to play this deck, you're not going to have to spend too much. Usually, with a couple of circumstances where that's happened and it's been tough to get something. Or you're just going to be able to play in a few local events and you'll acquire the cards you need. And in the cases where they've had one, like one example is they had made a red 1-drop Broly that came with these expansion sets, expansion set events. So basically there were like a couple weekends where these events happened with these promos, and that was it. That I'm not usually a huge fan of, but usually they send the store enough promos to get everyone a bunch of them. So it's like not a huge deal. But this one Broly just kind of caught fire, and it was going for pretty high. We're talking like there's like $40 right away to get one copy of this card. In recent, they recently did another product that you could purchase, an anniversary box that they do every year. And what they do with those is they say, okay, a bunch of these expensive promos we printed over the past year are getting alternate art reprints in this product that everybody can buy.
That's cool.
And that just adds to the supply enough of those usually to kind of wash everything out and make it so that if anybody just needs the effect of the card, they have access to a version that is clearly kind of marked as it looks different. It's got a different foil. It's got different art and everything. And you can then get I'm going to throw, before I pass the torch to Jordan to talk about stuff, because he's been waiting a long time, I'm going to throw one example of a company that I think has not done it correctly in the past. And this is Konami with Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, we've had people commenting. I really appreciate when people come in and comment on our YouTube videos or whatever, like, hey, I play Yu-Gi-Oh! And here's how things are right now. We've had a few people doing that past. That's great. Thank you so much, because I haven't played in years, so I'm not super familiar with it. But for a while, and they may still be doing this, but for a while what they did were you would go, if you top cutted, I think you had to like make top 4 of a YCS event, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series event, highly competitive, like regional or higher level, national level events. You got an exclusive card that only that top 4 got. And
That's really cool.
For a while, they're awesome. I mean, how prestigious, but they were unique cards. They were time limited cards. Okay. And make it worse, for a while, when I was playing more, it was during the XYZ or the XEs era. And the way the game worked then is you would build your deck and you have your archetype, whatever you're playing, and you'd have a 15 card extra deck. The game had this mechanic called XYZ summoning or XEs summoning or Exceed summoning. I don't know what it's supposed to be called. Everyone had different names. Yeah, well, not like the card game that you play. And these were cards that any deck could summon by having 2 monsters in play with the same level as the card you're trying to summon. It would usually say 2 rank 4 monsters or two level 4 monsters, whatever. And you just had to go on your turn. You could just go, okay, and I'll overlay these 2 rank 4 monsters and put out my Xyz monster. That meant that every single deck, because at these tournaments, they were giving out some rare exclusive Xyz monsters. It meant that basically any deck could play this card. And you would have it in your extra deck just as like an option, like, oh man, my opponent's playing this board, it's really tough to beat. But if I summon this thing, it's got this specific ability that pulls a magic field spell or whatever, and suddenly gets me through the game. So you often use those as like a toolbox of like, here's my extra deck, and these are all the little knives and corkscrews in my toolbox that I use to get through a problematic game. And when only 4 people at each event or whatever, maybe it was 16 or, but still, when those people got that card, they had a tool that nobody else had access to. And it wasn't like, well, let's play this deck. It was in basically every deck they played. And only they could use it for usually, I can't remember the time scale, at least a year, if not more.
Holy yeah.
And then they would release like a common version and a reprint thing that anyone could get if they wanted to. That was bad.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
That created the snowball effect. The same thing. We don't have to go into detail about the old Score Dragon Ball Z card game, but that had like insane problems with these like high level promos that if you had to play the tournament, win the tournament, then you got this card, and it was like search your deck for anything. And you're like, okay, well that's a good card. I'm always going to play.
And it starts on your board at the beginning of the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Or there was a great one where you literally just lowered their anger, and it was a drill that started in play, and anytime they entered combat, you'd lower their anger too.
Oh, the 90s.
Those were bad ways to do it. There are ways that do work though, and I think Bandai as a company for that, showing that model can work. But it does mean sometimes you have to wait for them to get to a reprint, or usually what it really means is it does what Panini was kind of failing to do, which is you come to that tournament. If you see this tournament's coming out with this Broly promo, you're going there. You're going to your local shop to play. You're paying the entry fee. You're buying the booster packs. You're supporting the shop, and that's the purpose of these promos. And that's where
I forgot to think about that. Yeah, the purpose of them.
They need to promote something. They go to these shops to promote you going to the brick and mortar shops, and you guys are going to hear this in like any podcast where this comes up, but brick and mortar shops are our lifeblood in the TCG universe. We need these shops to survive, to keep TCGs profitable in the way that we want them to be, to get all the benefits that we talked about in the Why We Love TCGs episode number 1 or whatever. And these promotional cards are the key so that people don't just go, I'm just going to sit at home. I'm going to order, my boxes online, or I'm going to order singles, and I'm going to play with my buddy and, call it a day. And that's kind of the reason why Bandai puts these, like, you might need this card for your strategy if you want to play Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta or whatever, and it's in these promo packs. So it makes you go, well, I'm going to make sure I go to the local shop and play in the event and buy some product and stuff. And that's how I get my promos to build my deck. And so, it's important not to lose sight of that being an important element. What is the purpose of these promo cards? And definitely it can be done right or wrong, for sure. And those are a few examples for you guys to think about companies that I think can do it well, usually, and companies that have dropped the ball on exactly what they're trying to achieve and fall into the trap of like snowballing good players with promos that only they have access to. Jordan, thank you again for being patient. Go ahead and let us know what you think about promo
Jordan,
cards.
the ever patient.
I'd just like to
Always.
double down on
start with you next time.
I'll just double down on what Dan said. Everything he said, we're good. That's
good.
our episode, everyone.
That's the episode
right,
of MetaManiacs Show. I appreciate you all coming.
We make this joke every single time, by the way. It's probably pretty old by now.
I thought about that as I was saying it. I was like, oh no, we've used this so many times already. But in all honesty, it was like that is pretty much the bulk of what I was gonna say. It's I was gonna say it's more about the distribution rather than anything else, because I am for having promos hold immense value. I mean, it sucks when you're not the person who's holding that promo. I've been on both sides of the coin, where sometimes I'll get that exclusive alternate art, and then sometimes I'll want it and be like, man, I sure wish I didn't have to pay. Like right now, I'm actually in that exact same bind with UFS. With the PTC promos being way too readily available in the past, they wanted the PGC promos, by the way, I'll preface, they're always just alternate art, like full art foils of versions of
Jordan,
cards.
What's
Yes.
a PTC for the listeners?
Oh, a great question. I just had
A
it, and
great
then
question.
I immediately forgot. It's basically their form of regionals. It's called like the Pro Tour Circuit or something, or some clever word with P that is card game related. It's basically their regional tournaments for, to gear up for nationals. You can get national invites and all that jazz with these. They also come with exclusive promos for both participating and topping in them. And then in the past, what would happen is after a while, they'd go to their redemption program. So, everyone could get them for some packs. They'd also give them out in like large amounts. So like pretty much if you played in the event, you'd get a play set of pretty much everything, assuming you played each round. Because to incentivize people to stick around, they'll give out more and better stuff every round at the start of the round.
Sure.
Rather than just you participate, you get this much. Because then,
They did that in
by
Gen Con
round
for
3,
Final
everyone
Fantasy.
drops. Yeah, because then like everyone drops at like round 3 if they can't make top cut. But in this way, you're incentivized to play, because not only are you getting like more stuff, you get more packs and more promos. But then, long story short, the promos didn't have a lot of value being held because everyone and their mom had like 8 copies of everything. And your playsets are only 4, so like you're like, what do I do with all these extra cards? So they wanted the PTC promos this year to be more exclusive. So the only way to acquire PTC promos is by participating or topping in these events,
That's
which
really
I
cool.
liked, because then they hold their value. There's only so many copies of it, and I'm excited about it. But now I didn't win the retro event, or I didn't top in the retro event, and I really want Flame Aura promos, but they're like $40 to $70 for the playset, and like I don't
That's
want to
rough.
drop that much on a card that is essentially just a starter deck common, but it looks so good. Like the new Universes borders with the new foiling patterns, it looks so good. But so I like when it's alternate art bling. The one thing I was also going to touch on, which again we kind of already touched on, was I am not for I like exclusive effect promos, but I'm not for them if they are limited distribution for like some prestigious thing. Like let's say like the Worlds promos in Score was a perfect example. You win this tournament, you get this baller card that does this unique effect that just boosts your power out of the freaking ceiling, and only like 5 people have it. And now they're way more likely to continue winning events. So then they're way more likely to get all the other promos in the future.
Sure.
So I like unique effect promos as long as the distribution model supports the fact that everyone or near everyone can get it at a fairly low cost, or a low enough cost to where you're not gonna like have to break the bank to make sure your deck is playable.
Right. I think it's interesting that Jasco with Universes they do both approaches of having just alternate art promos as their like PTC promos and stuff. But when we went to Worlds, they had some Worlds exclusive unique effect cards that they gave out, and like you said, it was they only gave those out in like the round 7 and 8 or something of the event. So we had to sit there and and play the event the entire time. But then at the very end, it like I was getting drained. I was like, I'm so done like playing for the day. It's been a long day, and then they start handing out these like cards I've never seen before with an effect I've never read. Like, whoa, this is cool! Like this is exciting.
And then you're revitalized. You're like, hell
I'm
yeah!
excited again.
Yeah. And then they release them later on Redemption.
Yeah, the nice thing about that is that they still took the unique ones and put them on redemption. So it allows people to still get them later, but I still felt like it was valuable that I went there and got them, so I can save my packs to redeem for some other stuff that I do want to get later. So
Sure.
Like the exciting
redemption in general is
foils of the My Hero cards.
Yes, exactly. The redemption thing is a really nice option, because I think if your goal is to try and get if you're doing unique promos and as a card game company and you want to be able to get more into distribution later, if you're not going to think of this like outside the box redemption system, then you're pretty much your only option is to reprint the promo card. And it is really difficult to reprint a promo card, like I was saying earlier, and not completely tank the value of the card 100% for people who like went out of their way to buy it or collect it earlier. If you're going to put it in a product people can buy.
Another thing that Jasco actually does with their promos too, which is kind of neat, because they have a rotation. Their standard rotation is huge. You'll have cards for like 4+ years sometimes, especially when there's a pandemic. Shoutouts to Mega Man still being legal. But
you said that wasn't going to be legal like way long ago. I remember when we were talking about it before, like when we demoed, you're like, yeah, but Mega Man's going out really soon. So this is like forever ago.
Never came.
So,
but they use the promo system too sometimes to release cards that have fallen out of standard that they want to bring back in, and they'll reprint it with some new cool foiling and a new picture and stuff to reintroduce that card back in, whether it's a character or like the first PTC me and Dan went to, and I believe Dillan Hickle, we got the Kazuya Reppas that were reintroduced that had dropped out of standard. That's a card that's pretty dope. It's not like the greatest card ever, but it's a card that makes certain decks really click. And I
like it in Sung Me Na a lot.
Yeah. So I really like promos. I like collecting them, but as long as the distribution model, if they're doing unique ones anyway, is really the important part. I just don't like being locked out of unique effects because it, breaks the competitiveness of the game.
Right.
Well, that's what I was worried about.
Well, while we're talking about collecting promos, I also, and we're just talking about things we wish card game companies did. I don't like when a company releases so many promos in so many weird ways that I can't keep track of like where they are, what they are, or where they come from. I really prefer when it's man, like, and this is where I think Bandai could do a little better, because they don't have any sort of clear system about where you get these things. Like, I think on your website you should have, here are the promos available and here's where to get them, because that's part of the whole idea of promoting something, is like having for Metacross, I used to host on MetaManiacs. It's still up there actually if anyone's looking for Metacross. I have a page called Fantastic Promos and Where to Find Them, and I think if I remember right, I got that 100% finished with the locations of all of the promos and where they came from and images of them and stuff, and the ones that were released at least.
That's really cool.
So it's something that I really value as someone who likes things to kind of be in the right place and organized in that way. And I wish more companies were going to go out of the way to put a page on their website that says, here's just historically the list of all the promos. And it literally just has to be like a link to the card image. And then this was given out in March tournament kits, whatever. This was given out with this DVD of this show or whatever. Just so that people know what to look for.
King.
Yeah, like Scorzy. You know what? That's how I got into Scorzy, though. Like, talk about promo cards that promoted the game. I specifically asked my parents when I was a kid to take me to Burger King so I could get a kid's meal, so I could get these cool Dragon Ball Z cards. And do you know where I learned about them? I learned this was happening from the commercial. I learned about those, and I learned about the game coming out from the old Scry magazine that had a big ad for Dragon Ball Z collectible card game coming 2001 or whatever.
That's cool.
And I went down to the local store I used to frequent, which was a little shop above a gas station here in Fargo, North Dakota, called All Star Sports Cards. And I called them and said, "Do you have the Dragon Ball Z card game?" And he said yes. And my parents took me down, and I bought a Hero starter deck, and a couple booster packs, and I got Krillin as my first character.
Rip.
And I was disappointed because it wasn't Goku, as you should have been back then, probably. And I got an ultra rare in the starter deck, which was insanely uncommon back then because they were 1 per case.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
And they were all pretty much...
Was it Saiyan Saga?
Bad. Yes, this is Saiyan Saga.
Okay.
They were all pretty much... It was Medic Kit, which was a setup that allowed you to, if I remember right, it's Rejuvenate 3.
Nice.
I think that's it. And it was limit 1 per deck.
Jeez.
And yeah, it was weird. I got it and I was like, oh, cool. And like, I didn't even like, it didn't phase me. I didn't realize because I didn't know like what the rarity scheme was like or what was good or what was not. I just like, I pulled out the checklist that was on the back side of the paper playmat in the starter deck and I checked off Medikit. I'm like, got that one. Oh, it's an ultra rare. Neat. And that was it. So it was really weird, but that was my very first starter deck. I had an ultra rare for some reason. And I remember thinking this is weird because the starter deck said on it, you got 1 common foil and 1 uncommon foil. And I guess like technically an ultra rare is an uncommon foil, but I don't think it's an uncommon foil, right?
In the terms of like card rarities. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, total tangent, but just wanted to point out that, promotional cards, again, they have a purpose, right? And I think it's important when companies make it clear how you get them and where to get them because that helps them actually be promoted. So
sure, that's really cool. I didn't think of it that way. I forgot. Like obviously they're promotional materials, but I guess
they're extra bling.
Yeah, I always kind of just saw them as a I guess I saw them the way they wanted us to see them. You know, I saw them as like player candy and fun things for us to get, for us to show off. But it's 100% there just to get people to work it, to make sure they head out to stores and they're buying from from their LGSs and stuff like that. That's really cool. I never like I know it's something that I thought about. It just wasn't something that like was at the forefront of my mind at all times.
Yeah, I mean that's why they do buy promos.
Yeah,
a lot of games do buy box promos where you get something just for and usually like with Magic they're limited. There's some games just package them in the top, like Panini Dragon Ball Z did that with perfection. They just put a cell box topper in each one. And Dragon Ball Super has been doing box toppers. Prior to this, they did buy a box. They called them dash packs. So if you're just purchasing a certain number of packs from the store, then the store would hand you a dash pack. Also, Digimon, I think, is doing those.
Sure.
Question about the dash packs, because they have released very little info about the Digimon ones. I'm assuming they'll be similar to Dragon Ball Super. How do they work? Are they like time limited, or are they just you buy this many packs and you always get it?
So for Dragon Ball Super, the way they worked is they were limited in product. However, I remember distributors tended to have a lot of them left over still with some of the sets that they came with in Dragon Ball Super. So it's going to completely depend on the popularity of the game. If it's like we're seeing, they might not be lasting forever because Digimon's looking like it's going to be pretty popular. The store would get a certain number of them, and basically again, these numbers may be completely different for Digimon, but for Dragon Ball Super, it was you got sent a dash pack for every 12 packs you ordered. And you were instructed, these are given out to players whenever they buy 12 packs. So if they buy 12 packs, they get 1. If they buy a booster box, they get 2. And the reason they do these limited is because they want to encourage people to get in and pre-order with the store to make sure they are, to make sure they get their dash packs and everything. And they call them dash packs. Like if you don't understand that name, it's so you dash out to get your product right away.
Sure.
And the reason that's important to the store is because stores have to order this product way more in advance than a lot of people realize. You can't just call up like the Wednesday before a product releases or whatever and be like, yeah, can I get a few more boxes of that new Dragon Ball Super set? No, that's not something that happens. You have a deadline that's several weeks,
months in advance,
like a month or more in advance. And past that deadline, you are not guaranteed to get anything that you try and add to your order. It's just going to depend on if the distributor's got enough. Distributors have to be pretty tight with their ordering. You got to imagine they're ordering so many TCGs. And if they sit around with tons and tons and tons of boxes because they wanted to make sure they could hook up shops that ordered late,
Sure.
that's just lost money for them until they have to like liquidate them at like, some cheap price or whatever, or work with the company to come up with a promotion to get people to buy those boxes, which Bandai's had to do for a couple other sets as well. They had like these world tournament draft events that they ran for a while. They called them they were like celebration events, and they said the stores had to order a box of the world tournament set, which was like an old set at that point, in order to get the kit for that tournament. So promotional items are sometimes for promoting sales in a store, more importantly, and for a distributor to move their product so that they have the available cash flow and space and everything to order new stuff.
Sure.
So there's a lot of levels to this. But I want to get to the point. The reason that they push these pre-orders is to get the stores to have the money to place these orders right away. And so they can order with confidence, because it's a win-win-win scenario for everyone. When everybody gets the product they want, the store sells everything they order, the distributor sells everything they order. And it works best when customers order as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That is how it all works and like goes smoothly, because then the store knows how much to order, the distributor knows how much to order. And when the store gets their money up front, then they can afford to place bigger orders for things, because they've gotten, their money on their margins already a little bit.
Sure.
And then they can have a little more in stock the day of release, so that people can come in when you inevitably come and you're like, all right, I didn't get what I want, let me buy another box or two or whatever. Then they can have that in stock for you, because everyone ordered in advance, so they were able to afford it. So, boy, I didn't mean this to turn into like a lecture about like pre-ordering and stuff, but like that's what those dash packs are for, and that's what you can expect, I think, with the Digimon card game. So everybody, if you're interested in Digimon, get to your local shop, ask them to order it, and put down a pre-order if you can manage it, because especially these days, shops need it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So and it'll make everything smoother for everybody.
There's still time, by the way, Dylan, if you want to get out in our local shop.
I am interested after playing the demo, and I would love to play with other people's cards until I have until I'm available to, until I'm certain that I have the time to invest into another TCG and full-time school and full-time work and full-time content or part-time content creation and learning the guitar and facilitating a good relationship and keeping my friends from killing me from never being around and participating in trading card games. So the good news is
a lot of overlap.
I've got so much time because movies aren't coming out. And Tenet was really good, but it bombed. So because nobody went to see it because everyone was afraid they were going to die, which is an appropriate reaction. Movies aren't showing. So every movie that was going to come out this year is coming out next year. So I've got 2.5 hours a week that I wouldn't normally have.
There you go.
So once you
That's
show
enough time to play Digimon.
Once you show me Digimon the card game, and
I'm ready to show you at any time.
I know. I
you guys,
also have
listeners out there, if you want to get in on a Digimon demo, hop into our Discord. Link is going to be down there in the description. It always is. Join our Discord, and we've got a nice Digimon crew building up there. And if you go in and ask, "Hey, the Scythe, can you show me how to play the game?" That's Jordan.
I'm more than happy to give you a virtual demo.
How to play.
He would love to show you how to play.
Absolutely.
I've done a handful.
You should probably have a better player show you, but like.
Ooh.
I've never lost a game in my life.
Never lost a game. I'm undefeated in everything.
That's not true. There's
guys,
video content.
Too much. I think we kind of got what we want to say about promotional cards. So there's certainly more layers to them than I think people tend to expect. But they're great for games. They're what we need. We do need promos to keep existing of all kinds. It helps to have a variety. Distribution's the key. And pre-ordering with your shops. Make sure you do it. So with that all said, I think we're just going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. And thanks to our patrons, of course, for supporting us. You're about to see a little card of all our amazing patrons who are supporting us financially and allowing us to do all this stuff. if you guys want to be one of them for as low as $2 a month, you can hop in, and we are just releasing now a new bonus episode as well for our patrons only, talking
which was great
about playing card games during the pandemic and virtual reality, VR gaming. We talk about that.
And playing card game adjacent categories.
Yes. So if you guys want to hop in and see that and some other great content, Patreon, for just $2 a month, you can get all that stuff. If you pay more, we'll shower you with your name everywhere and benefits and all that stuff. So
I will kiss your firstborn child on the head.
Yes, absolutely.
I will
in
be
any
there
case,
at
we
his
would
baptism.
appreciate if you guys like this content, just go ahead, like down below, hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a good rating. Do all the stuff that helps us out. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of the MetaManiacs Show, where we will be talking about Magic the Gathering Arena. So stay tuned for that.
Super excited for that episode.
That's right. Yes, me too. Stay tuned for that, guys. We'll see you next week, and take care.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.